All right, what is going on, guys? Randall Thor 19 live with the Xbox 2 podcast on a Friday. Sorry we didn't do it yesterday. Completely my fault, but we're here doing it. We got a whole bunch of topics to get to. But first, I want to introduce my co-host, the co-host with the most, the one and only Jez Corden from Windows Central. And Jez, we're looking like prophets, man. Something we talked about literally, a couple weeks ago. It sounds like it's going to happen, huh? And or a year ago, even too. Interesting.
It's weird. It's weird, isn't it, man?
Mm.
It's almost as if Phil Spencer's been pretty upfront about this probably happening for a long time or something.
Yeah, I don't think people they didn't want to believe it. That they didn't want to believe it, but we believed it. I mean, I've always said that this was going to happen. What are we talking about? Well, we got a bunch of topics to talk about. Xbox exclusives coming to Nintendo Switch. You don't say. Rumors port to Xbox Game Pass potentially heading to Nintendo Switch in the future. Maybe the announcement this year, which means you might be able to play your Halos and your Gears on Nintendo Switch. Oh man.
God.
Oh my God. We'll talk about all that stuff. And if it's possible that all this could come to the PlayStation, because that's something else I've been seeing. Not rumors that I'm hearing, just people like wishing for it to happen so they can just say au revoir to Xbox and never have to deal with it again and just play it. Au revoir, yeah. Isn't that like the French way of saying goodbye or something? Or am I just being stupid?
Au revoir.
Au revoir, there you go, yeah. So we're going to be talking about that. Also, it's interesting to get like, oh, by the way, Xbox exclusives coming to Switch, but also we have 2 new consoles that we're going to be debuting at E3 this year. You could play your Halo on your Switch, but then we're also going to be selling you consoles too. So that's going to happen.
Switch in glorious 720p or play it on the Xbox Anaconda in 4K 60. I know where I'll be playing it, matey.
On the PC.
Well, maybe.
Probably.
Surface Book 3 is rumored for this year as well.
Yeah, so all that.
This year
more Anthem getting trashed in reviews. A lot of these games coming out recently getting destroyed by critics. Are they whiny? There's that to kind of discuss. Mikey Barr made a tweet about it.
How do I combo?
Yes, so easy. Even a caveman could do it. And whatever else we feel like talking about. So let us know what you think in the comments. Super chat's open, all that good stuff. As everybody files in here, don't hit the like button, share this bitch out, as YouTube sucks a lot recently. I don't know if you've seen this, Jez, but YouTube now can literally demonetize you for the comments left by people in the comment section in the chat.
Oh, I did see that. If you don't moderate your comments and if the comments aren't advertiser friendly, you'll get demonetized.
Like, really? It's hard enough to get YouTube to do the things they should be doing, like sending out my video to the subscribers that subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, right? They don't even do that half the time. And now they're like, by the way, you're going to be responsible for what somebody else says in chat. Like, are you serious? Like, come on. And I understand why. I don't know if you heard the reasons. I'm not even sure if I want to talk about it, but the whole child endangerment thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird. Pretty weird and screwed up. So, yeah, do me and Jez a favor, hit the like button, share this out, as it is extremely important. So, before we get into the main topics, I got to ask Jez what he's been playing, and hopefully it's not World of Warcraft or anything else.
It is!
It is World of Warcraft. Okay, well, nobody cares.
I've been playing lots of games this week, but also World of Warcraft. But I've been playing a lot of Anthem. The game du jour. We'll talk about that in more detail in a bit, I guess. Also, I've been playing Stellaris Console Edition for Xbox One. If you've heard of that.
Indeed, I have.
It works surprisingly well with the controller. Like, if you don't know, Stellaris is a strategy game for PC where you build your own galactic empire. It's really awesome, but it's also really complicated. So I was really curious to see whether it would actually work very well with a mouse and with a gamepad, rather. And actually, it does. It works pretty well. Although You think that now that we've got mouse support on Xbox, they would bring that for it, wouldn't you? But they haven't. It's just gamepad support for now, but who knows what happens down the line. Yeah, it's pretty good. If you like strategy games, sci-fi strategy games, I reviewed it on Windows Central. Quick plug if you want to check it out. But I'm not going to waffle on about that because I think we talked about it before on the show. I love Stellaris. I've got like 200
Yes.
hours. On
You
PC.
love those type of games.
I love space games where you can blow up planets. You know, although the planet destroying DLC isn't on Xbox yet, sadly. What else have I been playing? I think that's pretty much it. It's just Anthem and Stellaris this week. And also working through Metro Metro Exodus as well. Trying to get through to the end of that before I get addicted to something else. And also, I think that's pretty much it, man. I think that is pretty much it. What have you been playing?
So I with the new dog, it's a little bit hectic. I haven't really put out as much content or played as much as I've wanted. As he
dog, Barnaby, right?
Barnaby was our old dog. Shakespeare.
Shakespeare, right?
So he's like I said, we rescued him. So he has a little bit of separation anxiety.
All right.
So like he wants to be by somebody all the time. It's one of those things where like if he doesn't really see somebody, he gets kind of like whiny and upset. So
my old dog was like that.
Yeah, so it's like I haven't really gotten a lot of time to play and stuff. So usually late at night. But I have been continuing my journey in Far Cry New Dawn, which I'm almost done with, finally. And then I can play Metro because me and my friends decided to skip Anthem. Because nobody, like all of a sudden is like, yeah, all of a sudden, like, well, Magic's like, I'm playing Anthem on PC. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then Maka's like, I don't feel like playing Anthem. And so it was just going to be me and Gopher. And then it was just like, you know what? I don't feel like playing. I don't like, like I'm good. I'll play Metro. Like I'll just save this money and I'll buy whatever.
Poor Gopher, leaving him out.
He didn't really care.
I'm sure he was just saying that. Gopher, come and play with me. I'm playing Anthem right now, actually.
Yeah. So I didn't pick up Anthem, and considering
tell me about Far Cry actually, because I've got Far Cry. I haven't tried it yet. But I am curious, like how different is it from Far Cry 5? Because I haven't even
It's not that different from Far Cry 5. It's a sequel to Far Cry 5. I do think it looks better. I think the world is more interesting.
Better because Far Cry 5 looked pretty great.
I mean, this one looks better, in my opinion. This one looks a lot better. The problem with the game is, I think finally the fatigue of what you do in Far Cry is hitting me. And this is coming from someone who loves Far Cry. I love 3, I love 4, I adore 5, right? But there's always that gap in between those games. But this one, since it's less than a year later, you're literally doing the same thing, but they stretch the content out a lot, right? So there's like 10 outposts in the game that you're supposed to take over. And to get the money to upgrade your weapons and upgrade your base, they want you to take over these outposts. But then, like, once you take over the outposts and get ethanol, which is the upgrading currency to upgrade your home base, ethanol. You can, because it's the apocalypse. So like, the money's gas, right? So you can, after you do the outpost, you can choose to scavenge it, and then the highwaymen, the bad people of the game, will come back and take it back over, so you can do the outpost again, but against harder enemies. And once you do that, you can scavenge it again. They'll take it over again, and even put more harder enemies, so you can get more loot. So and that's
some kind of base building mechanic as well.
Well, it's not really a base building mechanic. You have this like home base, and as part of the story, you're supposed to try to build up this community, and it's more about like giving you perks. So you start off, you'd be able to like craft level one weapons. And then if you want to be able to craft level 2 weapons, you got to upgrade your base. But to upgrade your base, you got to go out and get 2 specialists in the world, which means do 2 of their story missions. You also got to get X amount of ethanol to be able to upgrade it. So like some of the things that you can upgrade at your base are your crafting weapons, because you got level 1, level 2, level 3, and legendary weapons. Your max health from 100% to 150% to 200. How potent are the medicinal herbs? You can craft different styles of and levels of like vehicles. it's not like really like it's not like a base building like you would have in like an RTS. It's just like another like stat where you can increase some of your stat points outside of like the challenges. So the main problem I have with Far Cry is that it's boring. So the same problem I had with Crackdown 3. And I think it's because I literally did all this less than a year ago. Like I love Far Cry, but the loop of doing the same thing, of doing the outposts and doing all this crazy stuff, I think just finally hit me, and it's just boring now because the story is not interesting whatsoever, especially compared to 5. The villains are the worst, the absolute worst. So when I play it, I'm like, this isn't very interesting. And the fact that they want you to replay all the outposts 3 times, the fact that they want you to do the expeditions 3 different times, it just seems like they took a $30 DLC or a $20 DLC, sold it standalone, and then stretched the content out. Because there's only 20 main missions. But like you can't just go do the main missions. They want you to do other things. I don't know. I'll probably put out a review, but like I'm sitting right now at like a 7.5. It's not yeah, and that's like, a little bit disappointing.
So basically, if you really like that gameplay loop, then it'll be worth playing. But if not, then skip it.
I mean, I guess it depends. I've seen people saying like this was their first Far Cry game and they love it, which sure, I mean, I could see that, but for me, as someone who like loves Far Cry, it's just I see this game and I'm like, man, I just did all this.
Off topic slightly, did you like Primal?
I didn't play Primal.
Oh, really?
I had Primal, but I never got around to playing it.
See, Primal's like, I really like Primal because it's like, it's slightly different. Just because it's like there's no guns and I don't know, like the slightly different setting was interesting to me. Whereas this is like it's the same, basically the same setting.
Yeah. So now, I mean, I'm pretty much at the end. Like I got 5 main story missions left, so I'll be able to finish tonight. Then I'll be starting Metro. But I am a little bit disappointed in Far Cry New Dawn. I ain't gonna lie. Like I love Far Cry a lot, and hopefully they take a break. Hopefully we don't have Far Cry 6 until 2022, so I can kind of overcome the fatigue of me just playing it. Like the exact same way. But there's this interesting discussion I wanted to ask you about that I had a conversation with my buddies last night. Are you surprised Anthem is trashed as it is? Like when that game first was revealed 2 E3s ago, I was like, oh my God, this looks so good. Right? But then it's out now. It's been out on PC for over a week. It's out on Xbox and PS4. And, people, Crackdown 3 came out last week and people made fun of it. People were like, oh, look at the 59 I got on Metacritic. How horrible. And it's like, sure, it's a $60 game. It really should be a $30 game. The campaign's not that impressive. There are elements of fun you can have with the game. And, if someone tells me, because in my review, like, I was bored. I gave it a 6.5. And I had people come at me saying, like, you're not a true Xbox fan, all that other stuff, right? But like I never say if say you can't enjoy Crackdown, right? And then here comes Anthem, the big next game from EA, and it's getting absolutely ripped apart. Yeah. Are you surprised by how much is getting destroyed by the press?
Actually, I am a bit surprised. I mean, our reviewer gave it. I didn't review it myself, but our reviewer gave it 6 out of 10, and I didn't disagree with that score. I was kind of like, yeah, I can see why, because there are some systemic problems with it. It feels like the level designers weren't communicating with the gameplay designers, which is why there's so many damn loading screens in the game, which really hurts the flow of play. But the thing is, there are like other sort of games that have made these same mistakes before and sort of got a pass for it. For example, I'm going to say Monster Hunter World, for example, has the worst party matchmaking system I've ever seen in gaming history. But that game largely got a pass. And I suppose to some degree it's because the gameplay in that is so incredible that reviewers was just like, well, that's the downside, I guess. But everything else was so good that it didn't matter. Whereas Anthem is has really awesome combat. It has really awesome graphics. and it has a pretty, rudimentary story, which Monster Hunter World has as well. Monster Hunter World story really isn't that great either, but it got a pass for that too. So it is kind of weird that Anthem is being hammered like it is, and part of me thinks it's because
it's EA, right?
no,
No,
but
no.
because it's Bioware, and people know this is supposed to be Bioware's A team. This is the excuse for Mass Effect Andromeda was, oh, that was Bioware's C team. That A team's working on Anthem, and I think people they were hoping to see Bioware at its best here, and Anthem's story is bland and boring. I'm not all the way through it yet, but it's like I don't really know what's going on. The characters are boring, and I don't really care to know what's going on, frankly, because it's just not that good.
Well, when I played the demo, the first thing I thought after finishing the demo was like, this isn't a Bioware game. I don't know, like everybody who told me like this is, I'm like, this is not a Bioware game.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's the thing. Like people have this preconception of what BioWare should do and what they should be, and I think even BioWare does to some degree because they put dialogue choices in this game. I don't know why though, because they don't mean anything. You select two different choices, and he basically says the same thing, and the NPC responds in the same way. I had no idea why they included them at all. So I feel like BioWare sort of with this, there is an awful disconnect across key components of the game, which sort of puts it in this weird sort of messy state, which I think contributed to disappointment that people have. But again, I go back to Monster Hunter World, which is an online multiplayer game, which has a similar layout with open hub worlds, which are, with a very basic plot, with terrible voice acting, but with awesome combat. And I'm sort of, when I play Anthem, I'm still having fun with my friends, like I did with Monster Hunter World. And I'm going to stick with it, like I did with Monster Hunter World. I'm going to kill all the main bosses, like I did in Monster Hunter World. And I'm going to gear up my character, and I'll have fun doing it, like I did in Monster Hunter World. The extraneous stuff that you don't really care about in a loot 'em up, like Diablo, like the story and stuff. Like Diablo doesn't have the greatest story either. And you don't play Diablo and those sorts of games for the story. And that isn't an excuse for a bad story. I'm not saying it is, but the thing is, it's like if you give one game a pass for having a weak story, but because of its loot 'em up gameplay, then why not give this a pass too? It's just that I do feel the scores are inconsistent on this game.
Well,
I can't put my finger on why though. I want to say that it's because people expect more of BioWare.
Do you think it's because this is something that my buddy Lovebook Gopher brought up last night, that we live in a post God of War, post Red Dead Redemption 2 open world state where these open world games like Anthem and Crackdown get compared to what people consider like the top of the genre now? So
I hope not, because that means like when Monster Hunter World's expansion comes out later this year, the I can't remember what it's called now, but they're releasing a big expansion for Monster Hunter World this year, which is gonna be set in a sort of frozen wasteland. It's like I'm already calling it the Skyrim expansion. Why not? I'm wondering, like, will they slate that for having a weird story? Because this, I don't know.
I just think I just think these games that are coming out recently are just mediocre, to be quite honest with you. I don't think there's any like grand conspiracy. Like when I first saw the Far Cry New Dawn reviews, and I was like, well, that's low. But then I played Far Cry New Dawn. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much spot on. Now, I do think the Crackdown Metacritic is a little bit low. I mean, I said it was a 6.5, so it's a little bit lower than what I thought. Anthem, when I played the demo, and my first thought after playing the demo was like, yeah, I'm not interested in this game. I don't know, maybe considering Anthem wants to be your forever game, but like it's coming out so long after Destiny and Destiny 2 and Division, other games like it, but it still has problems that shouldn't be there. if you're, learning from the other games in the past. I don't know. Like, does Apex Legends have something to do with it? Like people like because I could see that being an issue. Like people are hyped for Anthem, and then all of a sudden Apex Legends comes out, and it's like, yeah, screw Anthem. We got Apex Legends. What do we need Anthem for?
I don't know, man.
The whole like loading stuff, like how you equip a weapon, you got to go load into the forge or whatever, and then equip it and load back out. Like, remember they talked about a seamless world, but there's nothing seamless about it, right? And there load screens everywhere.
Did I actually talk about a seamless world?
I'm positive they talked about a seamless world in that initial reveal. So it just is weird to see Anthem like get destroyed in reviews like this. Like I haven't played it, so I don't got much to say about it other than I played the demo and I wasn't really impressed.
The Monster Hunter World comparison is really bugging me because it really doesn't feel far removed from it. I think like Monster Hunter World kind of established itself as like as a brand unto it, almost as a genre unto itself, and reviewers are just like, oh yeah, the story's bad because it's a Monster Hunter World game. We don't have to expect a good story from that. Whereas this has the Bioware brand on it, so as a result, people are really pouring over the story, and like, and yeah, maybe that's fair. But like, if you're attacking this game for its story, then you have to attack Monster Hunter World for its story as well, because the story of Monster Hunter World doesn't really make any sense either, and the English voice acting is god awful, and it's not like Capcom is a small indie company either, where you can just be like, oh well, it's not their fault. They're just a small indie company, I just I don't know, and maybe like I'm missing something here, but I love both games. I love Monster Hunter World. I got like 200 hours in that game, and I'll go back to it when the expansion comes out. But
I mean,
I do think people have been unnecessarily harsh on this game. I mean, I will say that I have crashed in Anthem an ungodly amount of times. I mean, like, I didn't crash in Monster Hunter World really at all.
let me ask you this then, because right now Anthem on PC has 34 critics, a 61 Metascore, right? I don't think it's up yet on Xbox or PS4. PS4 to be determined, Xbox to be determined. Okay, so there's not enough things. How much of this, and we're going to segue into a similar topic, but how much of this is just whiny reviewers, Jez?
I honestly don't know. I actually feel like maybe there is a bit of like, oh, BioWare should be better than this like aspect. I really do think there's a disappointment with BioWare aspect to the reviews of this game. I definitely do think that is the thing.
Well, Jamie asked, "Did you crash in Crackdown?" No, and you still give it a better score than a broken game like Anthem. I don't think Jez reviewed Anthem, though.
I didn't review Anthem, no. And I did crash in Crackdown, actually. I crashed during one of those tower puzzles, which really made me mad because it was one of the harder ones towards the end. And I crashed in the final tower room as well, which really made me mad. Although they've fixed those in the patch, probably. But yeah, I did crash in Crackdown, and I've crashed in Anthem as well. And I didn't review Anthem, so GG. I would probably have given Anthem a higher score than our review did. I probably would have given it a 7. Because it does have lots of problems, it does make, I think it is a fair criticism to say, like, why have you made some of the same mistakes that, some of these other online games made? When you've had examples of what not to do, and
yeah,
why have you made the same mistake? So I think that is a fair criticism to make at the game. There's a lot of things that really bug me about it, like the tethering. Like, if you're playing with randoms and a random runs off because he's done the mission before, but you haven't, and you end up getting pulled along with him, it's so annoying. Like, if you're trying to loot something, for example, and then you get tethered over to him for some reason, and they have made it more forgiving in the patch, but honestly, it shouldn't be there at all in a game in 2019 like this.
Let me ask you this: are you worried about the future of BioWare? No. If this game does not meet its sales expectations? Now
I'm not worried.
So you're not worried. So you think no matter what happens with this game, even though EA is notorious for shutting down studios, you think no matter what happens, that BioWare is good to go?
I think the value of BioWare as a brand and their IP is like too big for EA to just leave on a whim. And the thing is, there is a lot to like about this game, and if they stick with it and improve it, then it could definitely claw back some of the negativity that it's sort of made for itself with its annoying
So,
limitations.
do you think this is just a problem that these live service games have? Like take Sea of Thieves for example, destroyed for lack of content when it first launched in March, right? But a year later, it's got some content. People seem to like it. The game's much better. So you have Anthem, right? Another live service game. Here it comes. A whole bunch of problems, loading issues, all this other stuff. In 6 months to a year from now, are we going to be saying, God damn, Anthem's really good, right? Destiny 2 destroyed at launch because they chased after the casual crowd. But you talk to anybody who's a hardcore Destiny player, the new update, the new expansion has made Destiny better than ever. Is this just one of those things where it's like you just need to wait 6 to 8 months for this game to get actually good? Or should you just wait 6 to 8 months to actually play the game? Because that's what seems to be going on with these live service games. Like they suck at the beginning, but then eventually down the road they get better. And
it is weird, and a part of it is like the devs sort of digging their own grave by I mean, Fallout 76 is a great example. They dug their own grave with that game by releasing it in such an awful, catastrophic state. I don't think I've ever seen a AAA game launch as messily as it did. And I think I gave that game 6. I think I gave it 6 out of 10 as well. But the thing is, I had a lot of, as people are aware of, I had a lot of fun with Fallout 76. And a lot of the problems with Fallout 76 were things that reviewers gave Fallout 4 a pass for, which is just weird to me. So I think there is a degree of these studios, which traditionally make single player games, single player story driven experiences, not meeting the expectations, and it's almost backlash driven. Like you almost, as a game reviewer, it was almost like you weren't allowed to like Fallout 76. You weren't allowed to praise it for anything. And like a lot of game reviewers that I saw that reviewed Fallout 76, they didn't mention any of the ambient storytelling. They said, "Oh, this game has no story." But the thing is, it had loads of sort of environmental ambient storytelling, which Fallout 4 did as well. But that game got praised really heavily, and I think I gave Fallout 4 a 7 out of 10 because I thought like they'd really dialed back on the role playing stuff, and it's like all the other reviewers didn't notice then. So I don't get it. I think there is an element of backlash with Anthem, with Fallout 76.
with EA in general, I think. I don't know. I haven't played Anthem. It's just interesting to see.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like Apex Legends didn't get a backlash because it was from EA.
Because there wasn't a hype cycle for Apex Legends. It literally was out before anybody could make a YouTube video or an article about it, and you could play it for yourself. Like Anthem's been in the hype cycle in the news since E3 2017, I believe. Right? And
you're saying that like if Anthem launched without any hype cycle,
I'm just saying like Apex Legends wasn't touched by it because like it avoided all that by releasing straight away and letting everybody play it right away. Whereas like Anthem, it has the cosmetic stuff. It's a premium title. Like I'm not saying like Anthem should have done the same, but like I saw Samuel Tolbert in chat says Mass Effect Andromeda has a 71 on Metacritic, and right now Anthem has a 61. And I remember Mass Effect getting destroyed by critics. And here we are, Anthem's 10 points. Like, I would never have guessed this. I think when I predicted it Metacritic, I thought for sure Anthem would sit at about a low 80. The fact that it's 20 points below that, it's like, holy crap. What happened?
It honestly feels like a bit of backlash to me.
Well, so this goes into Mike Ybarra's tweet about, the reviews and how, he read a review of the game but didn't know how to combo. He said it was really easy to do. I mean, you saw the tweet. I made a video about it. People have been taking Mike Ybarra to task over it, and because they see him as
Mike used a really bad example there, because what the reviewer was saying was that when you review a game, you're not reviewing for the hardcore audience. I mean, you are to a degree, but you also have to review for the wide middle. It's called the wide middle. The people who are casuals, basically. Now, a casual coming into Anthem for the first time, they ain't gonna know how to do a combo because the game doesn't explain how to do a combo. I only knew how to do combos because they're the same combos that are in Dragon Age, and they're the same combos that are in Mass Effect, you know. So I knew, it's like, oh, these are Bioware combos, obviously, primer and detonators. It's like that in every single Bioware game. They ain't explained in the tutorial, man. They're explained in the codex. But if you're if you're new to Bioware games, you ain't gonna know. And I think that's a valid criticism to make.
Right, but a lot of people thought Mike was trying to defend Anthem in some way because they have a co-marketing deal. Which, if you know Mike, like I know Mike, Mike couldn't care less about the marketing deal that they have with Anthem. And then, of course, there was the whole, well, he's just trying to get back at reviewers for the low scores of Crackdown 3. It's like, you guys really don't know Mike very well, because that's not the case either. Mike couldn't care less about that as well. But I did say, like, it's one thing, like, when you're in that position, yes, you know, when you see, like, you read the Twitter account in the bio, and it's like, these are my personal thoughts, right? Like, not my employer's. But when you're in that position that he is, you should probably think twice before sending something like that. And if you meant something different, like I think he kind of did, I don't really think he meant reviewers are whiny. I think it was like he was trying to make two different points. Like, you shouldn't tweet that, because why? Maybe your personal opinion, it also is going to reflect back on Xbox. It'd be like if Phil said that. Like, people take what Phil says as gospel for Xbox, despite even if it's personal opinion.
It's Mike's. It was Mike's follow-up tweet that irked me, where he said that modern reviews should be game streamers and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, let's totally listen to the opinions of people who get paid to give their opinion. Did you see that EA blacklisted someone for giving?
Well, I did see that, but then they said that wasn't the case. It was that that guy didn't fully disclose, like, all the parameters of that of his relationship or something, and EA like told YouTube about it, and YouTube took it down or something. I don't know. I did see that.
Well, still, I mean, like, how can you, when someone like for Apex Legends, for example, when Dr. Disrespect and people were hyping up Apex Legends, they were doing hashtag ad at the end because they were advertising the game. And yeah, Apex Legends turned out to be a good game. But, you know, I've seen this happen with Need for Speed before, where racing YouTube influencers were getting in trouble for saying negative things about Need for Speed when they had a marketing deal with EA for it and stuff like that. It's like, so I mean, there are like FTC laws where you have to declare your relationships if you're being paid to review something and stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. So, like, I do agree with when Mike says modern reviews in quotes. Like, I do agree that watching a gameplay stream of a game gives you a better impression of how the game plays and what it looks like than a review on a website or a YouTube video. I feel like I agree with that. It just does. If you watch a 2-hour stream of a game, you're going to have a better impression of the game than someone. Then you read an article, which usually doesn't have any sort of video, it's just like pictures. Like, I agree with that, but
I disagree though. I think, like, you can't, like, if you watch a stream for 20 minutes, that's not going to give you a good.
Well, I'm not saying 20 minutes. I did say 2 hours.
Well, some games, like, first of all, are you really going to watch a stream for 2 hours? I mean, some people probably do.
But no, but
you're not going to get an idea of things like the end game. Is the end game messed up and stuff like that from a game stream?
Right, but the other issue is, like you mentioned, streamers tend to get paid, and you don't know, like, their personal ethics behind the situation. You don't know if they're going to disclose that they're getting paid. Like, look, I don't trust anybody. If you're getting paid to play a game, I don't trust your opinion on it. And, like, okay, my YouTube channel here, right? Really small in the grand scheme of things. The amount of emails I get every single day from a company looking to pay me to talk about their product in a video is staggering. And they're all like,
because I never ever get that.
Oh, I get it all the time. And I can only imagine what bigger YouTubers get. Like, and it's just like, we'll pay you, $100 to do a video about this, or we'll pay you and, like, you don't know if the person is properly disclosing the info that they were paid. And that's the same thing with the streamers. Like, I don't like I watch Shroud because Shroud is extremely good at Apex Legends and every first person shooter he plays. But he does sponsor streams. I can't take his opinion on anything he says about the game as honest, because he's getting paid to play it. And then when you go on stuff like Twitch and Mixer, you know, they're playing Fortnite, but there's a link to buy Fortnite V-Bucks, right? Or the game itself, and they get a cut of it. At that point, you're no longer really doing a review. Like, you're just advertising the game. Like, if you're playing the game and someone buys the game through your link and you're getting some sort of benefit from it, like, that's kind of, I'm not going to say shady, but like, maybe you know, if you wouldn't be that harsh on the game because you want people to buy it through your link and you make more money.
That's the thing, right? We have affiliate links on all of our content on Windows Central. But the team that puts the affiliate links on our articles is separate from the editorial. So we are under no pressure to say a game's good and get people, or say a game, or, you know, like a mouse or a headset. We're under no pressure to say any of that stuff is good, because the team that handles the affiliate links is completely separate to the team that writes editorial. And like, if anyone from, I don't care, man, if anyone from Windows Central said to me, "Can you give this a positive review so we can sell these products?" I'd be gone.
Right, but you work for a website that has, you know, standards and ethics, and right, and a code of like ethics it's supposed to adhere to. Like, some YouTuber, some random YouTuber, you don't know what his personal.
That's the thing, because they're a one-man show. There's no separation between the affiliate link and the editorial portion of the content.
Right. So Junior Miller says, so I shouldn't trust your reviews because you might be paid. You listen to the ones you trust. I get it. Yeah, like, I listen to reviewers I trust. I really like Skill Up. I really like ACG. Personally, I've never gotten paid to do a review. And yes, I've gotten free review copies. Like, Microsoft sent me a review code for Crackdown 3. And all I have to say is, you know, verbally at the beginning and then in the description, that this was provided by Microsoft. They didn't pay me for a review. It's just, they just gave me access to the game. And when that does happen, I always mention it at the beginning of the videos, like, hey, this is provided by the developer or publisher. But I've never actually received any money, even though there are plenty of emails I get that people would pay me to do stuff. I'm not a sellout. So I don't want to do that, because once you go down that road, where does it end? You end up like T. Martin owning a gambling ring for CS:GO skins, but you don't disclose it and stuff. Like, where does that really go, you know, into?
I think ultimately the way people should digest reviews is, like, just be entertained by it. Like, use reviewers who you find entertaining, but like, you don't have to take their opinion as gospel, you know. If you like their take on it or find it entertaining or interesting, then fine. But like, I don't base my purchase decisions on reviews generally. I mean, like, I was like, I read like a bunch of reviews about Samsung Galaxy Note 9 before I bought it, and there were people like, oh, it's, you know, there's better phones that are cheaper, blah blah blah. But I was just like, well, fine, but I really want the pen, so I just bought it, and, you know, that was that.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, like, the whole like Mike thing. Some people are like, oh, Mike just has ball. Mike definitely is very outspoken when it comes to a lot of people, and sometimes he'll just say what he thinks. So I don't know. I wish we could get him on here and ask him these questions about what he truly thought. Maybe one day. We did have him on here a couple years ago about stuff, because there are some questions I would love to ask him about, not just like reviews, but like Xbox Live stuff and Game Pass stuff. There's so many questions that I have for him. Maybe one day, you know. Yeah. But Jez, you want to talk about the end of Xbox? Xbox is over. I mean,
Xbox done, right?
Xbox done. So a year ago, you might remember if you listened to this channel and our podcast, me and Jez talked about the idea of Xbox Game Pass and Xbox exclusives being on the Switch. And people called Jez crazy. People called me crazy. And then what was it? 2 weeks ago, we talked about this idea too, like how Ori. We were pretty certain. We're like, Ori's coming to the Switch. Game Pass games going to come to the Switch. Blah 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 blah. But people were like, no, it's impossible. Possible. What's the point of Xbox then? If I can bust out my Nintendo Switch and play my Halo Infinites and my Gears 5s, what's the point of Xbox, right? Well, Game Informer, and also I think another YouTuber who goes by the name Direct Feed Games, I'm not mistaken, I think he had the story first, but then Game Informer confirmed it with their sources, is that Microsoft and Nintendo are doing big things together, huge things, things that will basically break down barriers. So the story goes that, and Game Informer says this announcement potentially will be made this year, maybe at E3, alongside this Anaconda stuff, we'll talk about in a little minute. That Xbox Game Pass and the xCloud, Microsoft streaming service, are going to come to the Nintendo Switch, and that Ori and the Blind Forest will be a direct published game by Microsoft on the Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. And to me and Jazz, this news is like, well, duh. Like, this is, I mean, have you not been paying attention to what Phil Spencer has been saying for the past 2 years? And I think now people realize that it wasn't just lip service, that, you know, when they say we want to get 2 billion gamers, that they really do mean they're literally going to put Xbox on every device.
I'll bear it back just 1 minute.
Okay. That Xbox literally wants to be everywhere. They want to be on your PC. They want to be on your Nintendo Switch. They want to be on your phones. They want to be on your toasters and your refrigerators. Wherever people are, they want to be there. And a segment of Xbox fans aren't going to like this. I mean, I've already seen a lot of talk about it on my timeline. There's this sense that if this does happen, then what's the point of Xbox, Jez? Well, okay, before we delve into that topic, how does this all going to work? Will these, if Game Pass truly does come to the Switch, which we both think it will it be through the xCloud? Will those games like Halo Infinite, Gears 5, I doubt they can run natively on the Nintendo Switch, but Microsoft might stream it. So we're looking at a situation like here where some of these games might be downloadable to the Switch, or some of these games more than likely will just be streamed through the internet on your Switch. Like, what do you think the scenario is, and how's the Switch going to actually run a lot of these high-end games that it can't run?
Well, I'm gonna give a bit of context here first. About a year ago, I was told that Microsoft briefed some of its partners on its intention to bring Game Pass to more devices, like the Switch and even the PlayStation. We talked about it, and we thought maybe it was maybe the source misunderstood, maybe there was something, you know, that was wrong with it, because I heard that it was even going to be announced at E3 last year. As a result, didn't report on it, and I'm bloody glad I didn't, because they didn't announce it at E3. But it looks like they might be announcing it this year, at least for the Switch. But since then, Phil's given interviews where he literally says in the interview, we want Game Pass to come to all your devices, you know, and that, you know, you can't get more plain than that, you know. All your devices means all your devices. I mean, it doesn't mean some of your devices, it means all of them. It means your Switch, your PlayStation, your phone, your smart fridge, maybe not your smart fridge, but pretty much every device that makes sense. Microsoft wants to put Game Pass there. And yes, maybe Sony won't let them, you know, and you know, and stuff like that. And maybe Apple will ask for like really heavy concessions and we won't get it on iPad either. Who knows? But that's the intention, you know. That is the goal, is to add it on all these extra devices. Sorry, what was your question now? I just went off on the tangent.
I'm just saying, we know the Switch is definitely underpowered when it comes to the base consoles, and especially the X.
Oh, right.
A game like Halo Infinite, a game like Gears 5. Like, sure, I could see Ori being like, oh, you download it, whatever. But for the most part, are we looking at a situation where Game Pass will just be tied in with the xCloud? And you'll be able to just log into the Nintendo Switch, and if you're already a subscriber to Game Pass through the Xbox, that, you know, you can just start downloading this stuff. I guess the question is, do you think most of these games will just be available on the Switch through streaming, rather than like natively downloaded to the Switch hardware?
I think where it makes sense and where it's possible, I think the native experience is always going to be better for customers. And I think on that basis, Microsoft will at least try to add those native experiences. And why wouldn't they? Considering they just made they've just created an SDK where developers can easily inject Xbox Live into specifically Nintendo Switch games. I mean, if they were gonna plan to just have these games as streaming, they wouldn't bother with this XDK, right? So I think like where it makes sense, Cuphead, Ori, like Hellblade's coming to Switch, games that are easily scaled down for lower resolutions, or games that are built on engines that are easy for scaling, like Unity, for example. Like Wasteland 3, I think has already been announced for Switch, for example. I can see Wasteland 3 coming with Xbox integration now that InXile is part of Microsoft Studio. Well, Xbox Game Studios. So I do think it's going to be a mixture of both, but I think it calls into question like what will Project xCloud simply be a tier of Xbox Game Pass? Like if you've got Xbox Game Pass, you also get Project xCloud if you spend a little bit extra on top, like with the way Netflix has its 4K streaming tier and Spotify has its high bitrate streaming tier for music and stuff like that. I think that there will be some tie-in and crossover. If I had to guess, I don't know for sure, but I think there'll be a combination of native and streaming experiences.
Yeah, I believe that as well. I think there'll be a combination of both. The ones that require like better tech than the Switch can offer, obviously, I think will be downloaded. And it'd be interesting if something like Halo Infinite does come to the Switch. With its focus on multiplayer. I mean, we don't even know how xCloud will actually work. So will it be great? Will it be shitty? Like we don't even know how all that stuff works.
Yeah, it might just be awful and not work, but I believe it will work. But
yeah,
we don't know ultimately.
um, well, so the question is, like DJ Singh says, like, what do you think Microsoft is getting something out of this? And I'm going to say Microsoft gets more users and another user base to access Xbox Live, so they can increase their monthly active user count. But more importantly than that, it's another feather in their cap where they can try to sell their services and their subscriptions to another audience. So if you're on the Switch and you don't have an Xbox, you can subscribe to Xbox Game Pass through xCloud or whatever, play those games. Microsoft gets a cut of the money. Essentially, Microsoft, what they get out of this is just more money. Period.
Money. And also, someone brought, I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but they also brought up that it would finally give them inroads into the Japanese market, which is something that has pretty much eluded them forever.
And essentially, you could turn the Nintendo Switch into an Xbox portable, like a lot of Xbox players wanted. Like a lot of Xbox players are like, man, it's so great if Microsoft made a portable system, but then that cost money to R&D, and they don't really know if a lot of people are going to use it. And in this scenario, it's like, well, why not just turn the Switch into your handheld already now?
You have to build up a developer ecosystem to make a handheld, and as we saw from Windows Phone, that ain't always easy. So I do think like they're going to be working on cool accessories to let your phone be like an Xbox portable and stuff like that. But for everyone,
true, but the phone is never going to be as good as a portable as the Switch is.
Oh no, I mean, well, it depends. Like for native experiences, maybe not, but I do think that there is potential for xCloud to be just as good.
So what does Nintendo get out of this, Jez? Because that's the other thing. Oh, and I know people say, well, what does Microsoft get out of this? We answered more users, more subscriptions, more money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Microsoft is not going to be getting fucking Smash Brothers on the Xbox or Super Mario Odyssey or Zelda. Don't think for a single second that Nintendo is going to put their games on the Xbox. That's not going to happen. Now, with that said, what does Nintendo get out of this, Jazz? What do you think Nintendo gets out of this relationship?
Well, first of all, they get a cut of all the sales on those games.
Some money.
They get the ability to get games that won't run on Nintendo Switch onto their system. So for someone who maybe they were sad that they couldn't play Red Dead Redemption on the Switch because it's not powerful enough, now that they can sort of get it in a rudimentary way through Xbox Game Cloud. And so that benefits Switch because it means more systems and services. But it kind of goes beyond this because Microsoft has a very diverse business, and there are other ways that Microsoft could potentially sweeten the deal here. Like they could offer subsidies on Havoc, Simply Gone, physics engines. They could, who bloody hell, they could give them like Office licenses for free or something, like thousands of Office licenses, access
You,
to Azure services on a subsidy. And I'm just saying there are multiple ways this deal can go down, and it's similar to how when Microsoft put Office 365 on the iPad, right? So like, but that you'd think that would damage Apple's iWork tool, which no one's ever heard of. But Apple let them do it anyway because it made the iPad a more viable device for lots of businesses, and this makes the Switch a more viable device for like core gamers who want to get those experiences, high end graphic experiences via streaming, because the Switch and portable hardware just isn't there yet, you know. So there's some like there's loads of benefits on Nintendo's end
I mean, yeah.
potentially.
So, do you think? Because I see some people saying, like, do you think Nintendo's going to be able to use Xbox's party chat system?
Well,
Because you
that's
know
another
they're
thing. It's like maybe Microsoft helps them out sorting out their awful network structure and stuff like that. There's a lot of things Microsoft could do to potentially sweeten the
well,
deal.
it
I think
definitely.
it could just be just as simple as they'll get a cut on it. And maybe Nintendo's just literally being open-minded here and just thinking about what would be best for its customers.
Yeah, there. I mean, it's so its customers, like, there's a whole bunch of games that miss on the Switch because of the graphical fidelity, and if something like Shadow of the Tomb Raider's in Game Pass, if the Switch user could use Xbox Game Pass to play Shadow of the Tomb Raider, they're playing on the Switch, but through Xbox Live, and Nintendo's always said like they don't really view Microsoft as competition, and clearly this is it. Um, so
Nintendo has had most of its success in portables, basically. The
right, so
Game Boy, 3DS, Pokemon Go.
but here's the other side of this, because I do get a lot of different types of people that message me. There are a segment of gamers, Xbox gamers, who feel that this is truly the end of Xbox as they see it. Even though Xbox exclusives have been on the PC day and date since 2016, they view that as okay because it was Windows 10, which is basically Microsoft, right? Even though, so, like, Xbox hasn't had exclusive since Halo 5 Guardians. Now they see this idea that Game Pass is going to Switch and that Xbox exclusives will be on the Switch. Now people are saying that this is the end, that this is, the end of Xbox forever. Um, and
I think
for
those
me,
people are very, very silly, frankly.
do you think they're silly? I don't really
Yeah.
think it is anything different than the games coming to PC, to be honest with you,
Well,
because
that's the thing. When they originally bought the exclusives to PC, there were people who were saying that was the end of Xbox then, if you remember.
well, yeah, I mean, I remember Phil Spencer slapping Crap Gamer across the face when Crap said he was going to cancel Quantum Break because it was coming to PC, and Phil was like, "You're going to cancel the game you want to play because other people are getting to play it." Um, and this is more of that situation here. It's
It's
the
only,
idea here.
you know,
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is I do agree that the point of Xbox console hardware is extremely lessened over the
it
years.
isn't though.
It is. It
It
is.
isn't. I mean,
There's less of a
do you
reason to
want
buy
do you
Xbox
want to
hardware.
play? Would you buy a 720p Xbox One in 2019? Because if you're saying like there's no point buying an Xbox One now, I'm just gonna play it all on the Switch. Yeah, fine, but you are making the concession that you are going to stream those games in 720p, probably at 30 frames per second. So like,
I'm just saying they negated the hardware the second they put their games on PC. That was Microsoft saying we don't really care about how
what
many consoles we sell.
do you play any games on PC?
No, I don't, because
People
it doesn't
want
matter to me.
the thing is, there's no crossover. People want those experiences where they want them. You know,
Trust, Yes, I know they do, but I'm just saying the idea of them putting their games on PC is them also admitting that the hardware isn't that important. Which I mean, I
Isn't.
don't really. But here's the thing: I don't really. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. They can put it on the PC. I don't care. They can put it on Nintendo Switch. It doesn't
See, I
matter to me.
think the truth is that people think this is an admission of failure, right? And they're looking at it through the lens of it's a sport and their team has lost. That's what the truth is here. And when people say, "Oh, they're saying the hardware doesn't matter anymore, Xbox is losing," blah blah blah, what they're really saying is, my team isn't winning the sport anymore, because they view the console war as a sport and not as like a business. But the thing is, this is them winning, frankly, because when Google and Amazon come around with their streaming services on the Nintendo Switch as well, probably, and when they put like Google game streaming on iPad and all that stuff, and if it does take off, I'm not saying it will, but if it does, and there's no reason to think it won't, it's Microsoft's game to lose, frankly, because yeah, while Sony can't compete there because they don't have a cloud, but like Microsoft has a cloud, and if they let Google and Amazon muscle in on that territory, they might have lost the hardware, the home console battle, but they'll have lost the war for gaming
Yeah.
if that takes off.
I mean, like I said, I can only read what people say to me. Like people are like, "Well, this just means that I don't need an Xbox anymore because I can play the games on Switch and PC." Which
Fine.
hey, if that's what you want, like go right ahead. Like it's your money. It's your money and it's your time. Where you want to spend your money and where you want to spend your time is up to you. If that means you want to play Xbox games on a console, Microsoft will have a console for you. They'll have two consoles for you. They'll have a super powerful one, and then they'll even have a cheaper one. If you have a badass PC rig, you want to play our games on there, well, you'll be able to. If you're on the go and you want to play your games on the mobile phone or tablets, you'll be able to. And hell, if you have a Nintendo Switch, you'll be able to. They ain't lying when they're saying it's all about options. And I do think a lot of people are stuck in this mindset of I spent $500 on an Xbox, and now because other people are getting to play, like other people can play the games that I thought were going to be exclusive to the system, then like it just doesn't mean as much as it used to. You know what I mean?
I mean, at some point you just have to you have to evolve or die. I mean, for example, I'm going to use Windows Phone example. I apologize for this, but I remember when they announced Office for iPad, right? And the world was shocked. The tech world was shocked because for the longest time, for the longest bloody time, Office had been a Windows exclusive. It was exclusive to Windows Phone. It was exclusive to Windows PCs and tablets. It was the thing that Microsoft used to hook people into that ecosystem, and they were putting it on iPad, which means Windows Phone is now doomed. But the thing is, it's a completely different situation because Xbox is actually thriving, and it's got it's not like there's no hardware, there's no developer support. Windows Phone had no developer support, and Microsoft were like, okay, we have to evolve or die here. And now Office is on literally everything, and it's one of the cornerstones of their entire business. Now, Microsoft could sit around and do nothing and just be like, you know what? We're going to stick with the small slice of the gaming market that is represented by the home console market. And it is a small slice compared to mobile, compared to PC. It's a small slice of the whole overall pie. Microsoft wants to be competitive on everything. They want to be on PC. They want to compete with Steam eventually. So I'm told, and they want to have a presence on mobile, which is dominated by Google, and in China, Tencent and stuff like that, and increasingly in the West, Tencent as well on mobile. And if Microsoft doesn't at least try to compete in those areas, eventually gamers could just move on from home consoles altogether, which is something that seems to be happening in the East a lot, where more gamers in Japan and China, they're increasingly moving across to mobile. And it's kind of like, if Microsoft has the capability, they have a responsibility to their developers, a responsibility to their customers to evolve with that trend. But the thing is, at the same time, Microsoft has the resources to not abandon its core audience. And I think it's really important here to stress that every single time Microsoft has talked about Project xCloud, every single time they've mentioned that they're still going to be making home console hardware for people who want that experience. And they have more developers, more engineers working on console hardware than they've ever had before. So for people to be like concerned about that is strange to me, because frankly, the Xbox Anaconda, it's going to wipe the floor with the PlayStation 5. I'm going to go out there right now. There is no way Microsoft doesn't have the most powerful console next gen. Not a chance. And you know, if that's the gaming experience you want, a home console, Microsoft's going to be there and support you, you know. Like they are with Surface on PC. The best Windows experience is Surface. The best Xbox experience will be Xbox consoles.
I mean, yeah, Xbox. I mean, I agree with that. The fact that Xbox has evolved beyond a console, like it's more of a brand, more of a real service than like it's no longer a box under your television, right?
That's why they rebranded Microsoft Game Studios.
I know.
Now when you see when you load up Minecraft on your Switch, you're gonna see a big Xbox logo when they update it.
I'm just saying, like, you read some of the comments, like, you know, DJ Singh says, I disagree, man. The Xbox brand is irrelevant when on other platforms, excluding PC. You know, Monkey Punch says, Rand, I think it's a stupid idea to put Xbox Game Pass on Switch. I don't enjoy playing on PC. I mean, obviously, everybody has their different takes. Like, someone might be like, I like this idea. Like, if Xbox Play Anywhere goes to the Switch, where, like, you have these games and you can just play these games on the fucking Switch and leave where you left off. Like, a lot of people will love that. But then a lot of people also have kind of taken the identity of the console itself upon themselves, right? Console warriors, so to speak, where now
if your enjoyment of consoles is the console war, I think you need to reevaluate while you're in gaming.
Right. So like Mr. Pyro says he thinks it's disrespectful to Xbox fans.
That's why they're getting more money so they can make more games.
So that was the thing. I might have a video coming out about this later tonight. Like, to me, like the idea, I don't know. Maybe it's because I just don't have that mentality, and I never really have. But like, someone, you know, when we talked about what does Microsoft get out of this, and what is the Xbox user? Because I also see this come up. Like, what do I get out of this? Well, what you would get out of it is more games to play. Like, let's just say you stick to console, you stick to Anaconda, or you stick to Lockhart. And if Microsoft sells their stuff on the Switch and the PC and the mobile and makes more money, let's just compare it to Netflix. Netflix invests all the money they basically make into making more Netflix original series and movies, so they can put those out and get more people to subscribe and keep subscribed. The same kind of correlation will happen with Game Pass and game studios. The more money Microsoft makes in that arena will help them invest more money into the studios and into Game Pass to make it better, to offer more games, to keep people subscribed for longer. It's a whole circle. So what do you get out of it?
I'll give you another example of what you get out of it. Like one of the central criticisms of Xbox this gen has been games that arbitrarily miss Xbox, like Persona. And like I saw on Twitter the other day, Koei Tecmo was saying, "Oh, Xbox fans need to show us that you want Neo on Xbox." You know, like why do I have to do that? Why do I have to show Koei Tecmo that I want Neo on Xbox? Just put it on there, man. Like the thing is, if Xbox has the biggest damn audience because of mobile, there ain't going to be no more of this, oh, games missing Xbox because the audience isn't there. Especially if like this stuff takes off in the East because of it being on Nintendo Switch. All of a sudden, all these developers, especially like Japanese and Eastern developers who miss Xbox because they think there's no audience for Xbox, they ain't going to miss Xbox anymore. You're going to get Persona on Xbox. You're going to get Yakuza on Xbox, all these games which traditionally don't come to Xbox because it's thought of as a Western console, that's going to change too. Like having the biggest audience is a load of influence and goodwill on developers, and it creates a halo effect over the whole ecosystem. There's a lot of benefits to be had for Xbox gamers because of this, and everyone should be on board. Anyone who's not on board just isn't seeing the bigger picture, and that's a fact.
Well, also, it's not true yet. It's still just a rumor. Like, obviously, like, who knows? This could all change eventually down the road. We don't think it's gonna change, as I think this has been in the cards for a while. But nothing's been confirmed yet until Microsoft and Nintendo.
Yeah, plans can change. We always have to throw in that caveat.
Plans can always change. I mean, I'm just reading some of the comments here, and some people really like this idea. Some people hate this idea. Some people feel like they've been backstabbed by Xbox for this. You know,
that's so dramatic.
Pollo says he feel like he invested on exclusivity and greatness, and now he feels ripped off. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who feel the same, and plenty of people who don't feel the same. And you know, it'll be a talking point for now, and then when it officially gets announced, people will freak out. Like, all I can say for me, I don't care. I didn't care when it came to PC because it didn't matter, and it won't matter to me when, you know, someone can play Ori 2 on the Switch. It doesn't, because
it'll matter to me because it means better things down the line.
Well, I mean, sure, you would hope it does, but I'm just saying the idea of someone playing Halo Infinite on the PC doesn't make me angry. The idea of someone playing Gears 5 on a mobile phone doesn't get me pissed off. The idea of someone playing Ori 2 on the Switch doesn't make me angry. That doesn't matter to me. Exclusivity, some people value exclusivity, I guess, like a lot. They feel like I bought an Xbox for Halo and all this stuff, and it was only here, and I spent a lot of money, and I invested a portion of myself into it, and then suddenly the floodgates are open, and they're not just exclusive to Xbox. I mean, I don't know. Like, you probably need a psychologist to sort through everybody's feelings on this, but PlayStation, Jez, Game Pass on PlayStation. What do you think? Is it possible, or is it something that will probably more than likely never happen?
I think it would take something very special and a pretty huge concession from Xbox to get that to happen. Like, they would have to give Sony something pretty big to make that happen because they're in more direct competition, right? And I think, like, if Game Pass came out for PlayStation, maybe Sony would see it like, yeah, okay, we're removing the need for people to buy Xboxes here, but at the same time, they're giving Microsoft more eyeballs, which might hurt them in the long game. So I honestly don't know. I could see that going either way. Personally, I think Microsoft would do it if they could.
No, I know for a fact they would if they could. Like, if Sony were to allow them, it would be on there as well. But, like, the Game Pass is a service that directly competes with PlayStation Now, a service that they already have on PlayStation. So Sony doesn't need Game Pass on PlayStation. It would be a competing service. Sony doesn't want Xbox Live anywhere near PlayStation Network. I mean, just look at Minecraft.
What if they move PlayStation Now to Azure and Microsoft gives them a favorable deal to screw over Amazon? Because I think they're using Amazon Web Services right now.
They'll probably continue using Amazon. I just feel like the way Sony's business is set up, that Game Pass, because look at like the Nintendo Switch. There's no subscription service, that really would compete with it other than Nintendo's own online subscription service. Like, PlayStation Now is a direct competitor to Game Pass. There's really no PlayStation's they currently don't even let EA Access on there, right? Like, so it would be a direct competitor. We already know they don't want Xbox Live on PlayStation Network. So it's just one of those things where it's like Sony just doesn't want it, and they don't really need it. Would Microsoft put it there if they could? Absolutely. If Sony said bring it would be there day one, and Microsoft would have their consoles, their two consoles for next gen, and they would have a streaming service on both, you know, and plus Sony's a little bit, I'm not going to say arrogant, but like they're protective of the you know the fans that they've built over time. Like you have 90 million PlayStation Network users, right? And Sony's built their network and their loyal fans for over 25 years. They don't want anybody just to come in there and be able to sell stuff to them just like that, you know? So that's essentially what Xbox would be doing. If Sony let them in, then Microsoft could directly sell things right to the user base that Sony had cultivated for, 2 decades plus. So it ain't going to happen. Like, it's going to be on Switch and it won't be on PlayStation. Maybe it'll be on PlayStation in 10 years, 5 years, whatever.
That's another thing, though. It's kind of like if it comes to Switch, I mean, it's not confirmed, but if it comes to Switch, that's another weird thing because there will be games on Game Pass that are available to buy natively on the Switch, which it's kind of like, for example, Darkest Dungeon, right? Darkest Dungeon is a turn-based sort of RPG-ish, roguelike-ish game that I personally love. It's available on Xbox and it's available on Switch. I would love for it to be on Switch because then I could play it portable. However, my save files are all on Xbox, so I'd rather just play the Xbox version. So, but then if I'm gonna get Xbox xCloud streaming on Nintendo, that potentially robs Nintendo of a sale of Darkest Dungeon on the Switch because I'll have already owned it on Xbox and thus have it streaming on the Switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think like Nintendo will limit xCloud to games that aren't available on the Switch because of the fidelity?
It very well could. Like we don't, like you said, we don't know anything about this other than it sounds like it's happening. We don't know if like how many titles of Xbox Game Pass will there be? Will it be an additional Game Pass subscription, right? Because we know they're building one for PC. Like what games will be in that? What games will be in this Game Pass for Switch? If there's a game in there for Game Pass that they already sell on Switch, will it be included? Like there's too many question marks that we don't know about this that it's really kind of hard to gauge. I would imagine I would imagine Nintendo would get more money if you directly bought Darkest Dungeon from them, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, if there are games on Game Pass, maybe Nintendo gets to curate their own Game Pass list without games that are on the Switch natively because they would get more money. Like who knows?
Then that pisses me off as a customer because I want to play my Xbox version of Darkest Dungeon on the Switch. Maybe that's why they have the cross-platform XDK to make me buy it twice.
Oh,
fiendish bastards! Because I swear I would buy Darkest Dungeon twice to have it cross-play and cross-progression. I would. I don't want to give Microsoft ideas because that is kind of scummy, but I would buy it twice. I'm sorry, but that's not a very expensive game. It's like what, $20 or something, maybe less. Darkest Dungeon is awesome. Everyone listening to this podcast, go and buy Darkest Dungeon right now.
Yeah.
Hashtag not an ad.
So yeah, you know what? Let's talk about Xbox Anaconda and Scarlet. But before we do that, if you guys are enjoying the podcast, we have 430 people watching, 440 people, only 150 likes. Make sure you guys hit that like button if you're enjoying it. Hit that little share button too, because Google doesn't do that anymore. We'd appreciate that. And Jez is going to tell you all about Anaconda really quickly because I have to go upstairs to mind the dog. I'll be back in a couple minutes.
What about Anaconda?
Just I don't know. Take some questions real fast. I'll be right back. I gotta go.
Hang on, I've got to open the chat then. I've got to open the chat. Bear with me. Bear with me, guys. Look at Rand leaving me high and dry. He always does. Leaving me high and dry. These are the worst segments of the Xbox 2 podcast because I have a mere fraction of the charisma around our Thor 19, the man with the million. So let's have a look at these comments. Please be nice to me because I have a fragile disposition. And people are mean to me, then I get sad. Oh, there we go. Oh, wow. This Jez, tell some jokes. Jez, what's 9 plus 10? 19. Jez, you should have a chat open. Yeah, I probably should, but it makes my PC lag. Let's pop out chat. Let's pop out chat. See if that works. Come on, pop out chat. Load. There we go. Jez, show us your Anaconda. Dude, that is naughty. Oh, actually, I actually did want to talk to Rand about Fallout 76's roadmap. Yes, do you think Anaconda will swallow the PS4? Yes, PS5. Yes, I do. I do think Anaconda will swallow the PS5. I don't think there's any way. I don't think there's any way that Microsoft sacrifices the hardware narrative next gen. I do think that Anaconda will be more expensive, but I think the trade-off will be that it'll be significantly more powerful. 4K 60 across the board, maybe RTX, ray tracing, and all that sexy reflections, good stuff, that sort of thing. Jez, are you excited for E3? I am extremely excited for E3. Microsoft has hinted that it's going to be its biggest ever E3. They're going to double down on it with they've got the whole floor, so basically it's all on them. All eyes are on them. So there is that. Jez, do you think Surface Andromeda will release after xCloud? Mega Misfit, I have a bet with Zach Bowden on Windows Central that Surface Andromeda will never come out. I don't think Surface Andromeda is ever going to come out because it won't have any apps, sadly. Jez, what would you want to see from Sony? The thing is, right, and that we often talk about how Microsoft has to do this streaming thing because they've got to compete with Google and Amazon and stuff like that. Like, where does this leave Sony? Like, Sony doesn't have a cloud. It doesn't have like PlayStation Now just isn't good enough, frankly, right now. I mean, I've tried it myself plenty of times. I tried it recently. It was too laggy to play a shooter. I mean, you can play like turn-based games on it, fine. But shooters, like I tried to play Fear on it, great game. It just sucked. So, but the thing about Sony is I think there is room for Sony to corner that market that they built for themselves. So, like, yeah, Mr. Linkified said Sony doesn't need any gimmicks, and I think there is a market for Sony to thrive in, as it is, just leveraging its amazing IP, its great games, and its studios. I think Sony can corner the traditional market by itself, but Nintendo have had to go to portables. Xbox is having to go to services, and I think like that's where the three companies will diverge ultimately. Microsoft will be about services, Sony will be more traditional, and Nintendo will focus on its portable, and all three will hopefully coexist and, be happy all together in a lovely world of rainbows and lollipops and all that sort of thing. Jez, what price range would you be willing to pay for next gen Xbox? I think like I'm like a hardcore fan, so I'll buy it no matter how much it costs. And also it's part of my job. But I think it should be around the $500 mark. It should be the same as the Xbox One X. I think like they'd be shooting themselves in the foot if it was $600, unless it was like demonstrably so monstrously powerful that you couldn't deny it. But I think Microsoft still wants this stuff to be. I think Microsoft still wants this stuff to be like console tier accessible. I think $600 would be too much, but who knows? Jez, top 5 games ever, dude. That is hard, but and we've talked about this before on the show. My number 1 game of all time is probably Final Fantasy VII. Like, I got to put World of Warcraft in there. I have 10,000 hours played in World of Warcraft, which is insane. I can't. World of Warcraft's less of a game for me now, more like just part of my life. It's just it's scary. Actually, we shouldn't talk about that. Also, I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil 2. I like the original Resident Evil 2 is one of my favorite games, and I absolutely love the remake. So I'm probably going to put that in there. I really love Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is a masterpiece in my mind. All the DLC was amazing as well. Like the Liara DLC and Overlord DLC. Absolutely amazing. Mass Effect 2 is just like as close to perfect as you can get for me, personally. What else? What was that? Was that 4 games? 1 more game. I'm a huge fan of the Fallout franchise. Fallout 3, New Vegas. I played those religiously.
All right. I'm back, Jez. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank God. I was talking about someone asked me from top 5 games, and I just running through them quickly. But yeah, we had some interesting discussions there while I was hyped on caffeine, and I'm glad you're back though, because now I can take a break.
All right. So, Xbox Anaconda, Xbox Lockhart, the Xbox Scarlet family. So you had a whole bunch of people today. Brad Sams, WCCF Tech. What's the Jew video? J video? Or how do you
Video.
Jew video? They basically said that through their sources, that Microsoft would be revealing both Anaconda and Scarlet at this year's E3. That Halo Infinite is a launch title for the system. Shocker. That's going to have more RPG elements than previous versions of the game. Shocker.
That concerns me.
Game Pass is going to receive a few updates. Probably, I would imagine. Maybe Game Pass is where they announced it's coming to Switch. That would be a big E3 announcement.
The PC version is a definite.
Yeah, well, there's supposed to be that Halo event next month, right? For Master Chief Collection or Halo in general.
So yeah, I think we've basically talked about this already, but they're probably going to announce Halo Master Chief Collection, maybe Halo 5 for PC next month. That's what the rumor is. And maybe they announce Xbox Game Pass for PC. But the thing is maybe they'll do that at the PC Gaming Show at E3 as well. The Game Pass stuff. But I know there are major overhauls coming to Microsoft's PC offering. They wanna compete with Steam. They wanna actually be credible in the PC space, because the Windows Store right now, it ain't credible, man.
It ain't credible. They can just do what Epic is doing, and just buy exclusivity to games. But I'm sure that would be.
No, I've spoken to people at Xbox, and they are not going to go down that route. I know with their own exclusives, but they're not going to start money hatting exclusives to the Windows Store like Epic are doing.
Yeah. We have a super chat from Stuff to Consider. He says PSN revenue is higher than the entire Xbox brand. Well, that's good to know. Thanks for the $2.
Is that true?
I don't. Yeah. Yes, actually, it is true.
Is that including Minecraft?
Yes. I mean, unless Minecraft is not included in Xbox revenue. So yeah, I mean, during the last reports, PSN revenue was basically more than the entire revenue that Xbox had generated. But hey, when you're number one, you make the money, and it's not surprising. But are you surprised, Jez, that Anaconda and Lockhart will be both revealed a year and a half before their scheduled release, which is what also says in these reports that they're coming holiday 2020. So I guess no chance of it releasing in March of 2020, which there's still talk it's possible. PlayStation launches in March of 2020. What do you think? Do you think this is the right idea here? Do you think that announcing these new consoles will torpedo the already less than stellar Xbox One console sales that are currently going on?
I think first of all, it will affect current gen Xbox sales, but at the same time, you've said yourself that they've written off this gen.
Oh yes, yes.
So in a way, it doesn't matter, because they're playing for bigger goals next gen. And it's almost like next gen is going to be a big reboot of the platform. They've got Game Core OS for PC, which is going to be announced probably at Build in May. I think it's May. So there's a lot going on in Microsoft's world this year. Insane amount of hardware stuff's going to be announced. HoloLens 2 is being announced this next week as well, probably, and it's going to be probably more accessible and have a gaming aspects to it as well. There is a lot of stuff going on in Microsoft world this year. It's going to be a big year.
So you're not surprised they're gonna? I am a little bit, to be honest with you. I wonder if they think Sony's releasing early March. because
I think
mean,
they're probably happy with the way they handled Scorpio, right? Like the way
yeah,
that fans were hyped about it for a whole year. You know, the
but will fans be hyped for
conversations have been
Anaconda
around.
knowing that their Xbox exclusives will be coming to Switch?
But they'll be coming to Switch in 720p, not 4K 60 with
I
ray
mean,
tracing.
but we've already seen, even in our own comment section here, that there seems to be a split. Some people don't care and are happy and whatever, but then other people feel betrayed. So, like,
That's frankly a niche within a niche.
understandable. I'm just saying, do you, I guess my question more is, do you do you see there being a lot of people, enough people to, I don't know, make it a problem for Xbox to announce the new consoles and also announce exclusives going to Switch, where it just turns off hardcore Xbox fans in general? Like, where they're just like, well, who cares about Xbox Anaconda when I can just play these games elsewhere?
Well, that's a win for Microsoft because there's if you buy Game Pass on Switch, then it's better margins for them than if you buy Xbox hardware.
I mean, it is true that Xbox hardware, they don't really make any money on it. That is true.
So that for them, that's a win. You know, financially, and it sounds weird, but the margins are better on the service than they are on the console.
I think people will start to finally realize that Microsoft doesn't care where you play your Xbox games. They honestly don't. They honestly don't care if you play it on the console or on the PC or on your mobile phone or on your tablet or on your Switch. They honestly do not
it to
care.
be a good experience wherever you are, and that's the whole philosophy, you know. And it comes from the Office thing. It was like, yeah, we want to make Office a great experience on Android. We want to make it a great experience on iPad. We want to make it a great experience on Windows, you know. And it's that philosophy extended, and it's been extremely successful for Office. So why wouldn't they extend it to games if they've got the capability to do so? More money, more happy customers, and frankly, it'll expose more people to Xbox hardware. You know, if like, who knows, man? If more people in Japan experience what Xbox has to offer because they're trying it out on Switch, maybe they will end up buying Xbox consoles for the first time ever. You know, who knows? It creates like a halo effect.
Yeah,
Call it marketing.
and me personally, I'm gonna get the Anaconda, even though I have a decent gaming PC, even though I do have a Switch, but you know, I don't like I
Well, that's what the perfect setup next gen will be: a Switch for playing on the toilet, and an Anaconda for playing on your 4K TV. That will be the best setup.
and a PlayStation 5 for playing those great Sony exclusives.
Yeah, PlayStation 5 for the exclusives. And that's another thing. Like I was saying while you were away, Rand, is that I still think there's room in the market for a traditional console. And Sony will probably be that console forever. You know, the
Well,
traditional
forever is a long time, Jez.
well, I mean,
Blockbuster thought they were going to be around forever as well. You
well,
know,
the thing is the apocalypse will happen before then. Like World War III, nuclear winter, and all that sort of stuff. So it doesn't matter.
right?
But but at least for the foreseeable, I do think there's room for Sony to be traditional, you know.
Now VR, we do have a question, and I'm going to bring this up because it kind of does tail into the Anaconda stuff. We have a question from Vinicius Galberto. He says, "Jez, do you think Xbox will have some VR related stuff in E3 2019 or anytime in the future, or they just completely got out of that market?" Now, there was an interview recently that said, "Hey, I've been asking Xbox about VR like all the time, and they haven't said nothing." So, do you think Microsoft is going to support VR, not HoloLens, VR in any way, shape, or form with these two consoles? That, you know, at the announcement of, remember when the Scorpio was originally announced, it was supposed to be a high-end VR experience, which they obviously lied about, walked back on their promise of that, right? For Scorpio.
The thing is that was back. Was that back under Terry Myerson?
Well, I mean, when did they reveal? They revealed Scorpio in 2016. So Terry was still in charge, I think. Yeah.
So I do think
You're
like
not going to blame Terry for this.
no. I'm not actually. Well, a little bit. No, I'm not. The thing is, I think what ultimately happened was when Phil took over, he was probably like, you know, we've got bigger fish to fry right now, like fixing the Windows Store and stuff like that. Let's put VR on the back burner at the minute and just let's see where it goes. and maybe invest in it in the future when, you know, it's more of a thing. And I do think if Microsoft truly wants to compete with Steam, which I've heard that they do, then they need to consider its VR offering. And the fact that Alex Kipman, who is in charge of Microsoft's mixed reality platform, basically, he's gone to Mobile World Congress, taking Microsoft to Mobile World Congress for the first time in a really long time to talk about HoloLens 2, says to me that there is still a significant presence of Windows mixed reality people at Microsoft. And I don't know if you heard, Rand, but the US military gave Microsoft $500 million to buy HoloLens orders. And if they're happy with it, they're going to buy even more next gen. So Microsoft definitely seeing some success in mixed reality in the enterprise space, and the application potential for VR and gaming is obvious. And you know, there are problems with VR. It still makes people, you know, seasick. It's still cable heavy, and there's all these like little problems with it here and there. But Microsoft is, you know, the company who could solve that. And I do think Microsoft will eventually look at VR again in the future. But I think they've got like, I do think they probably think they've got bigger fish to fry in the short term. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think VR is one of those things that just slipped Xbox by. That I think they wanted to do it, but because of the slow uptake of VR in general, they just decided not to. So I'm not really sure if they're going to support it for next gen. But
The thing is, like, I know that the operating system for the next Xbox is potentially capable of doing it, because it's like one of the big things about the next gen Xbox is that it's going to have a new operating system. It's going to have aspects of the old system because it needs to have them for backwards compatibility, but like they're also going to be trying to push developers across to a better system, which is supposedly called Game Core OS, which Zach Bowden has written about on Windows Central and stuff like that. And one aspect of Game Core OS, obviously, is that it'll plug into Windows Mixed Reality, and theoretically, it makes the development toolchain between PC and Xbox even more streamlined, which is something UWP was supposed to do, but it didn't take off. So, if potentially it's easier for a developer to take a Win32 VR game and port it over to Xbox via Game Core, I could see it supporting VR. I could see that happening, but I don't think it's going to be a focus in the near term. But Rand, I will say that I've heard that the Halo IP is being used to make a VR game at the minute.
now you did say on the last podcast that there was an extra another Halo game that was in development, and I did see people speculating on what it was. So, what is it?
Well, I don't. I mean, this is just a rumor, and take it with a pinch of salt, a heavy dose of salt. But I've heard that the Halo IP is being used for a VR project at the minute.
That's about as boring to me as them using that Dave and
Well,
Buster's
okay,
arcade machine.
what if it's a Cortana VR dating sim?
Oh Jesus Christ! Get Love Boat Gopher in here. He'll sign up day one for that stuff.
Again,
You know?
I don't know if it's true. It's just one of those rumors I've heard. You know, like the whole Game Pass thing. It's just one of those rumors I've heard. Don't know if it's true. Don't have hard evidence. And if I have hard evidence of something, I'll write about it on Windows Central. But like those little rumors, which I don't know if they're true, we post them here. And if they're true, then maybe if they're true, great. If they're not, then you know, it is what it is.
So what do you think, Anaconda and Lockhart? With the guy also said like the specs that kind of leaked out earlier in the years are pretty close to accurate. What are you guessing for price points on these things? Now we won't get priced at E3 2019 for sure, but are you hearing anything? What does your gut tell you that
I
what we're
haven't
looking at like prices here, price wise?
I haven't heard a damn thing about prices. And you know, like the last time I predicted, someone asked me to guess Scorpio's price, and I think I said $400. And obviously I was out by $100. But like everyone was like, "Oh, Jez told us it to be $400." Oh my god! And when it was just a bloody guess. So I would be happy, and I think it'd be the right decision if it was priced the same as the Xbox One X. I think like if they go over, they're kind of pushing the whole. The consoles are supposed to be financially accessible, right?
Hmm. I mean, they're supposed to be, yeah.
So I would hope that they wouldn't go above the $500 mark. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, if we're assuming the PlayStation 5 is going to be coming at $400, then I'm guessing Anaconda is 500 and Lockhart is 350 to 300. I mean, if that's their strategy, one system that's going to beat this PlayStation 5 on price. This is, of course, assuming the PlayStation 5 will have one SKU. And with the idea that Anaconda is more powerful than the PlayStation 5, I can't see Sony like going higher than 400, considering how well $400 worked for them. But if also there's also a part of me that thinks, well, if you have Lockhart at 300 and the PlayStation 5 at 400, maybe you go balls to the wall with Anaconda and give those Xbox users a premium experience, and you come out at 600, and it's like significantly better than the other two. And because you're not really worried about console sales, because they aren't, because they're gonna have stuff on the PC and stuff on xCloud everywhere and on the Switch, then it doesn't really matter that the Anaconda is $200 more expensive than the PlayStation 5. But in reality, I think it'll be $500.
Yeah, I would hope so. I think there's maybe a small chance it's more expensive, but I would hope Microsoft would mitigate that.
But that all depends on if the PlayStation 5 comes in at 400. But then again, Sony also thought $600 was a good price to the PlayStation 3. Maybe they think people will buy the PS5 for 400. I don't know, or $500. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what the price point variants are on these.
I think like a lot of tech companies are starting to, as like techies and nerds get older, I feel like a lot of tech companies are starting to push how much they think they can get the high value adults to spend on tech. Samsung just announced a $2,000 phone, for example. And how much is the top end iPhone right now? It's like 1,300 or something ridiculous, right? I think there is a potential that all the consoles across the board could be $100 more expensive this year, next year when they come out.
That'd be interesting. So, what do you think about Halo Infinite being more RPG like, though?
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? I mean, Brad Sam says that what does it say here? Let me find the article.
That concerns me, right? Because RPG for the sake of RPG isn't RPG.
He says that with the brand new game engine, the team behind the game is trying to make the story adapt to decisions the user makes, and the game may have more RPG elements than prior versions of the series. So, does that mean it's more open world? I mean, like Far Cry New Dawn technically has RPG elements in it. You have level 1 weapons, level 2 weapons, level 3 weapons. You can see the damage they do. Enemies are rated as level 1, level 2, level 3. It's very minuscule, like light RPG elements. So that does make me think, like, man, what if they introduce RPG? I mean, is this how they're going to change Halo? Because I guess maybe the idea is Halo's been too static over the years, at least the campaign.
I do think both Halo and Gears need to evolve, but at the same time, it worries me because like a shallow RPG is like, I mean, why bother? I mean, Anthem, for example, Anthem has decisions you can make, like in dialogue choices, but the dialogue choices don't matter at all, and as a result, they're frustrating and patronizing and annoying, and they shouldn't have added them. Like if two decisions result in me not making a decision, it's just patronizing and it's just an extra hoop to jump through to skip through the dialogue. So if they are going to do it like an RPG, they need to do it properly. And if they are going to do it like an RPG where your story decisions matter and stuff like that, I'd hope they do it in a way that doesn't suck. I mean, maybe they can have like a sort of soft morality system, kind of like what Metro has. Like, I don't know if you saw in Metro Exodus, but like, there's a bunch of like sort of soft moral decisions you can make throughout the game, and like the screen flashes yellow if you do like do a sort of callous thing, and it's sort of, I think it's going to impact the game's ending and stuff like that, like in Metro Last Light.
What if, Jez? What if you can sex up Cortana and have romance options?
Oh my god!
You know,
Well, game of the year, obviously.
I mean, think about it. Like light RPG elements, that kind of sounds a little bit like Destiny. What you know, and like I wonder if like they're gonna want like the campaign of Halo Infinite to be played ad nauseum over and over and over again. Does this mean maybe weapons that are tiered, that you have like a level 1 assault rifle, but then you can get a level 2 assault rifle that has a cool color scheme on it and it does more damage.
What
Like
if it's Borderlands-y? Like
See,
not a connected looter shooter. Like, well, I suppose Borderlands is kind of like that, but like not a connected game like Destiny, but sort of like a co-op game, more like Far Cry, or I don't know.
Are you of the opinion like me that Halo 5 needs to knock it out of the park?
Halo Infinite, Halo 5,
Halo 6, whatever, Halo 6, Halo Infinite. Like, I just have this feeling like they need to absolutely crush it with Halo Infinite.
I mean, I would like them
like
to.
No room for mistakes on this one. 343's had 2 chances at Halo 4 and Halo 5. They seem to have gotten the multiplayer right. Everybody likes the multiplayer, but it doesn't really seem like they've gotten the campaign or the single player right. And now they got 5 extra. Halo 4 was terrible.
Seriously?
Like, if I had to rate
Halo 4, like, I mean, I don't like the Promethean enemies at all, but Halo 4,
the Promethean enemies are horrible.
Halo 4 had like one of the best moments in the franchise, I think.
Yeah, what? Because she touched Master Chief in his private parts?
I cried, Rand. I cried.
I'm just saying.
Do you cry? Are you heartless?
No, I'm not heartless.
You're heartless.
I beat Halo 4 in like 4 hours that night.
That was a great moment.
I mean, if I had to rank my Halo games, we got like Halo 2, we have Halo Reach, Halo 3,
I never finished Reach.
Maybe Halo 1, and maybe like I think Halo 4 is the worst of the bunch.
No.
Yes.
Come on. Halo 5's the worst.
Halo 5 is the worst?
You thought Halo 5?
Oh yeah, Halo 5's Okay, you're right. Halo 5's campaign is worse than Halo 4's. You're right. Absolutely. But I'm just saying 343 needs to, this is a launch title. They need to knock it out of the park. This is their 3rd game. They've been given 5 years on this title, right? It's been 2015 since Halo 5 Guardians. They need to like nail every core aspect of Halo Infinite. Like, I know Halo is never going to regain the prestige it once had. It's never going to be the best-selling game like it used to back during the 2007s, right?
It's not going to have a Battle Royale mode, so...
But it needs to come out and just be really damn good. Especially if your counterpart, Gears, is also treading to be very good. Because look at Gears 4. Look what the Coalition did in 2 years, basically. They turned out a Gears 4 that was very safe, but good. Got a respectable 84 on Metacritic, even though that's way down from Gears 1, 2, and 3. But we both expect big things from Gears 5. Yeah. They got 3 years to make this.
Huge things from Gears 5.
Yeah, so like I'm expecting like an 88 on Metacritic. I'm expecting people to really love the game, the changes that they made. They've been given 3 years. And I'm just looking at like, okay, the competition. Like, I like the stories of the competition between the Sony studios. Like, Guerrilla wants to outdo Naughty Dog, and Sony Santa Monica wants to outdo Guerrilla, and Naughty Dog wants to remain the king. It's all like friendly competition, but competition nonetheless of who is the best studio that Sony has.
Well, no one's going to be in exile, so.
Well, I want that to happen for Xbox. You actually have a whole bunch of studios now. Like, who can make the best game? Who can buy and be like, all right, hey, Gears 5 was great, but wait till you see what we're making here at Obsidian. Hey, Obsidian's game was great, but wait till you see what we're making here at Rare. Like, that's sort of friendly competition. So to me, it's like you have Halo 5. You have Halo 5 Guardians, launched in 2015. Wow. 85 on Metacritic, I believe. Rightfully so. The campaign was trash, and the multiplayer was really good. I want to see them shooting for 90 Metacritics. I want them to have an amazing campaign with an amazing multiplayer where it's like, okay, you understand what?
Reviews don't matter anymore, man.
if reviews don't matter, they wouldn't send out review copies to people to play.
Oh. Well, that's what I heard on Twitter.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if these companies really thought reviews didn't matter, nobody would be reviewing early copies of any game that ever comes out. Of course they matter. Like, they may not matter as much anymore or as much as they did, but they still matter. The only like, here's the thing: when your game that you're backing doesn't do well, of course, you know, when Crackdown 3 comes out and gets a 59 on Metacritic, of course you're going to come out and say reviews don't matter. But I tell you what, they sure as hell were saying reviews mattered when Forza Horizon 4 got a 92.
That's true.
You know, when Ori 2 comes out and gets a 92 and is in Game of the Year, you're definitely going to see those same people who said reviews don't matter. They're going to be coming and they're going to be retweeting those fucking scores for Ori. And they're going to say, look at all these reviewers, they got it right. Everybody does everybody does everything to fit their own narratives. And the narrative was Crackdown wasn't that good, so reviews don't matter. But when Gears 5 is great, they'll be back. Reviews matter again. But I'm just saying, like, for me, like Halo Infinite, I just want it to be great. I want that internal competition between the studios to make great things. Like, when you give a studio 5 years to make something, Jez, you better hope they turn out something special. You know? I mean, God of War was turned out in 5 years. I mean, if that's the same amount of time, you know, you can't argue anymore that Halo is annualized, where people are sick of it. They literally gave you a 5-year break. Like, this isn't, you know, last gen where you were getting sequels every other year. You know? Now you get sequels maybe once every 3 years, unless it's Call of Duty and you have a new studio make a game every year. Can you please temper your expectations about Ori 2? No, I will not temper my expectations about Ori 2 Po 1980.
I've played Ori 2. There's no need to temper your expectations.
I think Ori 2 is going to be absolutely fantastic. And Mr. Linkfield says, Halo War 2s exist, Rand. I know I did see an interesting tweet from you today, Jez, about Halo Wars 3. Now, was that one of your...
That was
okay, but you know what? You said tweets weeks ago about Halo, or about Nintendo, Xbox games on Nintendo, and you're like, don't read anything into it, but surely there was something behind it. So now, you're telling me straight-faced that Halo Wars 3, that tweet doesn't mean anything?
No,
that you haven't heard anything?
No, it doesn't mean a damn thing. I tell you why I tweeted that. It's because I heard that Age of Empires 4 development is going really, really well, actually. And I was thinking, like, well, if Age 4 turns out to be a big success and they're happy with the work from Relic, maybe they get Relic to make Halo Wars 3 a huge success. That's what I was thinking. That's why I tweeted that. I haven't heard a damn thing about Halo Wars 3. So... there's that.
Okay, fair enough. But I don't want to hear 2 weeks from now. I don't want to hear 2 weeks from now. Oh, Halo Wars 3 rumored to be in development at XYZ Studio.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything. But if there is like Halo Wars 3 rumors soon, it's a pure coincidence. I haven't heard a damn thing.
What about Splinter Cell, Jez? I found Sam Fisher's...
I heard Splinter Cell's cancelled, actually.
Shut up.
I had Splinter Cell's cancelled, and they're actually they've sold the Splinter Cell IP to Konami, and they're going to use it to make a pachinko machine.
You know, it's interesting. I found Sam Fisher's stealth suit in Far Cry New Dawn. Actually has intel written by Sam Fisher himself in the game, and you can get a suit. Man, they certainly are teasing him in all these Ubisoft games.
They're doing it to troll you, man. I actually personally asked them to do that.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? This is a good point to like start taking some questions from the chat. So hit us up. What do you guys think? Is Xbox over? Now that Xbox games will be going to the Nintendo Switch, is it done? Are you going to leave and never play Xbox again?
I've seen people say that.
I know,
I'm going to quit Xbox because I don't want Nintendo people to play my games. Like,
I know, I've seen it. Why? So let me know. Let us know if you have some questions. And in the meantime, when you're thinking of stuff, if you haven't hit that like button, make sure you do so. If you haven't subscribed, if you're new here, if this is like your first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And yeah, we appreciate everybody stopping by. El Jefe wants to know, Rand, do you think they'll finally tease Fable 4 at E3?
Oh God, we haven't heard much about that recently.
Do I think they'll tease Fable 4? You know what? I think so. I think they will.
What if it's cancelled, Rand? What if it's cancelled?
What if it's not Fable?
Oh, well, we did. There is a rumor that it might actually not be Fable. I have heard that.
Yeah, I know. Ravenflow says, thanks for the quality content, Random Jazz. Also, chat, please hit the like button and support. We're nearing 400 people again. That's right. Thank you so much, Ravenflow. Hit that like button. Let's see. Someone here is asking, El Mio Ama Mio Padre El Feligo. He says, Jazz, I love you. Heart.
I love you.
D Black Rider wants to know, Jazz, how many new studios gets announced at E3? Ah, yes, the new studio.
50.
Hashtag
50
20. Hashtag 20 by 20, or is it 22 by 21, or whatever the new hashtag is that they come up at the Reset Discord era.
20 by 20.
They're really some of those guys. Some of those guys there, they're really gun ho for 20 studios by 2020. I think that's a bit unrealistic.
I haven't heard anything about.
But Jez,
studios. Have you, Rand? Oh, sorry.
No, I haven't heard anything. But Google has an announcement next month, a keynote where they're going to reveal all their stuff about gaming. Maybe now's the time for Microsoft to finalize some of those deals, because what if Google's like, by the way, we're buying companies, we're coming in here and we're doing all this stuff. Like, maybe now
Google buys EA or Activision or something ridiculous like that.
I mean, they got the money to, like, the gaming. The gaming's like, I'm not saying it's going to change, but you got Google coming in here, and who knows what their whole strategy is. You have Amazon. Like, I think like gaming is going to look pretty different in, the next 5 years than 5 years previous. It's just, you never know what's going to happen. Maybe now is like last time to Microsoft to get some of these studios on the cheap. You know what I mean?
Google is either going to be really disruptive or total trash. And, Microsoft can't afford to just rest on its laurels. Anthem just crashed on me. Great.
What do you know? Maybe it deserves that 61 meta score it gets.
Yeah, maybe. I swear, if I've lost, I've been farming loot in free play for the last 2 hours. If all that loot's gone now, I'm gonna screw, man.
You're gonna delete the game?
I'm gonna delete EA.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever get Alan Wake 2 or Dead Space 4? Dead Space 4. Yeah, I wish that EA would look at the success that Resident Evil's had recently, and think, oh, maybe we could make Dead Space 4. But the problem is the people that made Dead Space great are gone now, with Visceral being shut down and the devs being scattered to the wind. So I would be surprised if we ever see Dead Space again. But Alan Wake 2 as well. I don't think we'll see Alan Wake 2 personally. You around?
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't see Microsoft and Quantum and Remedy working together again.
Yeah.
Face wants to know, Random Jazz, if Anthem doesn't meet EA's sales expectations, is the studio in danger of being closed down? Maybe we'd touch on that a little bit before. Jez doesn't think so, because he thinks there's value in having Bioware as a staple of your studio. But I'm not too sure. I guess it depends on if the game, like, if nobody buys the game, if it's like a financial failure.
I maybe part of it for me is wishful thinking, maybe, but I would hope that EA sees value in what Bioware have put together, even if it's not been positioned that well, and the focus and the sort of the systemic problems, it can be ironed out and fixed.
You know what? If there is trouble on the horizon and Microsoft sniffs it out, Microsoft should make an offer to EA to buy Bioware.
Yeah, they should.
They should. Chain Slaughter wants to know, what do you want from the next Ninja Theory game? I just want it to be great. I have heard rumors and talk that it's like a hack and slash action multiplayer game, kind of similar to Absolver-ish.
I kind of want it to have fishing mechanics.
You want fishing mechanics and everything. I'm sure you want Master Chief to fish in Halo Infinity.
I've actually spoken to Roby, who is the director of player voice for Halo, and they said Halo Infinite needs a fishing mode, or else it will fail.
Stealth Master Z wants to know, is Reset era usually filled with political nut jobs? I don't really venture too much into Reset Era. I am in the Xbox Discord Reset Era, the group of guys there. I don't know. Like Reset Era is very much like NeoGAF to me. I don't really, I don't know, like the political stuff. I don't really delve into. Some people don't like it, you know. So yeah. Ibrahim Ali says, very seriously, Rand, I honestly believe exclusives are an overstatement of all console features. The most important thrown in our face are exclusives. Let's see what else. If they can't get Game Pass games on PlayStation, do you think they'll just port Xbox games to PlayStation? No.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's highly, highly, highly unlikely that you'll see Xbox games on PlayStation for the simple fact that PlayStation, they don't need it on their platform. Game Pass and stuff would be competing against their own service. They don't want Xbox Live anywhere near PSN, which can you blame them? Like, why would you? You know, like it doesn't really make any sense for PlayStation unless like they feel, you know, we'll allow this because it'll destroy our competitor. But I don't know. Did you see the interview with Sean Layden where he talked about like he wants the console wars to be over? And
yeah, but he also said that they want anyone can get crossplay, and then Wargroove was like, "Nah, he's lying."
Yeah, that is true.
Can you really trust what he says?
I don't know. Sean Layden seems like a good dude. I don't know. Let's see. Mr. Reese wants to know, Rand, do you think Xbox will give Sony a run for their money next gen? Now, I guess that depends on what do you consider a run for their money. Are we talking console sales? Then absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that ship has sailed. I don't think Microsoft, unless that really cheap Scarlet or Lockhart SKU sets the world on fire, I'm positive I would make a bet with someone right now that like the PlayStation 5 will sell more consoles than the Xbox. And also because like Xbox wants to be everywhere. They want to be on the Switch and the PC. And even though Jez disagrees with me, I do believe that does devalue the console in a lot of people's eyes. You know? So I think that makes Xbox Anaconda and Lockhart a little bit less desirable than their PlayStation 5 counterpart. But mostly because I think Europe is so strongly aligned with PlayStation that no matter what inroads Microsoft may make in North America, doesn't matter. Sure. So if that's what you're thinking, like, can they compete console sales wise? No. But I mean, they can give, I don't know, like if you want to talk about quality games, I think Microsoft will put up more quality games next gen than they did this gen. Well, Michael Monkey Punch says, so Microsoft will fail, Rand. I mean, I don't really think they look at it as failing. Jez, do you think by me saying that PlayStation 5 will outsell the next gen Xboxes, that means Microsoft failed?
Nope, because ultimately the measure of success has changed now. I think Microsoft will have boatloads of revenue from its service division and potentially better margins than PlayStation as a result. And I think they will be happy with that level of success. You know, it's what we consider success is going to be different when the consoles don't matter so much.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, that's the end of the show. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way out. Jez, what do you got going on for the rest of the week?
Well, I don't have anything major going on next week, but I do want to plug our Xbox Adaptive Controller feature, which went live today on Windows Central. I was working for the last few weeks with a chap with brittle bone disease to try and make an Xbox Adaptive Controller setup that worked for him. It was actually super complicated, and it took us several months to actually get it to a point where it was comfortable. But now that he's got it and it works, it's like it's become his controller of choice. Before he was confined to mouse and keyboard. So now we can play games like Ori that have like there's benefits to playing Ori with a controller because of the gradation on pressing the buttons, right? But you can't do that with a keyboard or a mouse. So now we can play Ori and you can play Forza and other games that benefit from gradation, so that was good. Other than that, nothing major. You know, I'm gonna be digging for info as always. But everyone, all the sources like Brad Sams more than me. Sorry, guys.
Mm. Yeah, so we appreciate everybody watching, especially those of you also who want to listen on SoundCloud and Google Play, iTunes. The show will be up in probably a day or two, depending on whenever Jez remembers to upload it.
I could upload it after if you want.
Yeah. So hope everybody has a good weekend, and we'll be back next week. Who knows what will happen next week? Maybe we'll hear news that Xbox games will be going to the moon or something.
Can we talk about HoloLens 2 next week?
No, nobody cares about HoloLens 2.
I hate you.
I know. But later, guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.